Welcome to What's the Scenario with PLRB, where we explore claims and coverage scenarios relevant to insurance professionals. I'm Alicia Watley.
I'm Tim Havler.
And I'm Mike Broad.
Tim, what's the scenario?
Old brick mansion in New Jersey with a brick fireplace. During a routine cleaning, the chimney sweep noticed some cracking in the chimney bricks. He thinks, number one, it's probably just due to old age and normal use because over time the heat from the fires takes a toll. He also thinks, number two, in his estimation as a chimney expert, the cracking has been there for probably at least 3 years. He encourages the policyholder to submit an insurance claim anyway. The adjuster gets the claim. The policy is the standard ISO HO3 2011 edition. The adjuster knows there's an exclusion for cracking, but the adjuster also thinks, wait a minute, fire is a covered peril usually. Question, is there coverage for the chimney? Trivia time.
Okay, I'm ready.
Me too.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a number question, so I guess you can each give me a number. On average, between the years 2012 and 2014, how many deaths in the United States due to fireplace fires that got out of control?
You are morbid, number
Yeah,
one.
no, geez, what a horrible
God,
question,
what a
Tim.
number.
Way to start out the podcast on a positive note. Yeah.
I know. So you said between 2012 and 2014, the number of fireplace-related deaths
Per year
per year.
in the United States.
Are we talking, here's the thing, we're talking your regular chimney, brick and mortar chimney, or are we talking, are there now the new fireplaces where it's like gas?
Oh, the gas fireplaces? Huh. Good question.
Good
I'm
qualification.
going to just make a call here. We're going to say any fireplace.
Any fireplace.
The gas ones are safer though, so they're probably not adding too many.
But hold on, since Alicia got her question, I get my question. Is this fire-related deaths or could it be like carbon monoxide poisoning?
Fire-related deaths.
Okay. On
So that-
average per year between 2012 and 2014.
Right.
I would say, I don't know. My gut was telling me like between 100 and 150.
I'm going much higher.
Mhm.
I'm going to go with 7,852.
Very exact.
Mm-hmm.
And on Price is Right rules,
I win.
nobody wins.
Oh,
How many? So we're both over.
Both over.
no way.
According to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, that number is 20 deaths, 60 injuries, and
If this was
116.
right, we would get another opportunity because they wipe the board and we get to guess.
Oh,
Right.
You're right.
So only 20.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the showcase showdown at the end.
All right.
Okay.
Well, is that maybe why you picked those 2 years? Because that was like the lowest ever fire-related deaths ever recorded in known human history. Generally, it's 7,558 or whatever it said.
It was because that's the only statistic I could find on
Oh,
this.
okay. All right. That's fair. Well, great. So where do we go from here, Tim, now that this is a
Oh, yeah, that's right. We had
a sad start? Right.
We had an insurance claim, didn't we? Forgot about that.
So, I guess I'll start.
Uh-huh.
So with this, does the cracking exclusion apply?
Okay, yes. I'm not going to hide the ball on this one. There's that exclusion in the policy. It's next to wear and tear and settling and all that. One of those words is cracking. This loss was caused by cracking to the chimney bricks. It does seem like, yeah, it could apply. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we need to be careful usually with the cracking exclusion, since it's grouped in with all those other long-term exclusions, wear and tear, deterioration, etc. it really should only be used for long-term, gradual,
Right.
normal usage type of cracking. Here's an example of where I think the cracking exclusion absolutely should not apply. Imagine if a vandal comes to your house and takes a sledgehammer to the wall and cracks the brick. Is that cracking? Technically, yes, but that's a vandalism loss. Proximate cause would be vandalism, not cracking.
Could be malicious mischief too, my other favorite peril
Oh,
that
Van,
I was like,
yes. So the cracking exclusion, it's usually best for, probably the original intent was when you have, say, soft soil under a house and it starts to settle like all houses do, and then you start to get some cracks in the walls.
but
But
even
also,
here, oops, sorry.
also here because it was, again, gradual, long-term, normal usage.
Right. So this just didn't, first fire that they ever lit in this fireplace, all of a sudden some cracks. This has been there for years, probably had a number of fires in this thing, and then eventually it cracked. Is that where we're heading with this one, you think, Tim?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Just it was really hot for for a long time, many uses. And like the chimney sweep said, that's just what happens.
But riddle me this one, Tim. What caused that fireplace to crack? A fire. Fire is a covered peril. So now it was fire that caused the cracking.
Excellent argument, but I'm
Thank you.
going to say probably not. And you would say, but wait a
Why?
minute, Tim. I
Yeah, wait
thought
a minute.
I thought fire is such a strong peril, and isn't New Jersey a standard fire policy state? And doesn't New Jersey have a statute that says fire must be a covered peril? Doesn't that mean fire pretty much is always covered except for arson?
That's exactly where I was going.
Mhm. Yeah, me
Not
too.
necessarily. They do have a standard fire policy statute on the books. So yes, fire is a very strong peril in New Jersey, but it still doesn't necessarily include the regular, normal, controlled fires. And
Okay.
this is where we get into the friendly fire versus hostile fire
Huh.
distinction. This was created by courts a long, long time ago. I like that. For some reason, friendly fire, it sounds so nice.
It
It's your
does.
friend, you know. So what we mean by friendly fire, this is from an insurance law treatise. It is a fire lighted and contained in a usual place for fire, such as furnace, stove, incinerator, and the like, and used for purposes of heating, cooking, manufacturing, or other common, usual, everyday purposes.
Like
So
warm.
friendly, so friendly. Now we contrast that with what courts have called a hostile fire. Unexpected, unintended, not anticipated, in a place not intended for it to be, and where fire is not ordinarily maintained, or as one which has escaped in the usual and ordinary sense of the word. So that kind of goes back to where this is not, it's not fire because it's not a hostile fire.
Hmm.
And again, the insured could say, but the policy says it covers fires. It doesn't say it covers hostile fires. It says
Right.
fires.
You defined those terms, Tim, so
I did. Or
I
so did
didn't.
so did the insurance law treatise, by the
Oh,
way. Fair point, but most, or I'd say many courts over the years have chosen basically to just write in the hostile fire requirement into the policy. And since I have access to PLRB's database, I was able to pull up a New Jersey case from 1976 that says, indeed, a fire must be hostile. A fire is hostile if it breaks out of its intended area or burns hotter than was intended.
oh,
So there it is, friendly versus hostile fires.
so this one, because it wasn't very friendly to this policyholder, because now it looks like this claim maybe not be covered.
But because it was friendly, it's not covered.
That's not very friendly. That's what I'm saying.
I see.
That's kind of
You
hostile.
think
I know,
it's a
it sounds
misnomer.
hostile to me.
I do, yeah. So we said this cracking happened over some time period, like 3 years, we think. Is there any kind of like a limitation in the policy on when you can bring a claim or a suit? Would that come to play here too?
Sure, there's always the statute of limitations, which is every state has laws on the books that say certain types of, say, breach of contract claims can't be brought after X number of years, maybe, I don't know, 5 years is a common one. But most policies, I would say just about all of them, have written in something stricter. They say they give a shorter timeline from which a claim must be brought in court after the loss. This policy we have, it's called the suit limitations, or it's
Right.
called suit against us. It says no action can be brought against us, that's the insurance company, unless there has been full compliance with all the terms under section 1 of this policy and the action is started within 2 years after the date of loss. So that's interesting. Here we're 3 years past when the chimney sweep thinks the cracking started. 3 years is more than 2 years. So could the insured be barred from taking this to court in the first place? Well, one approach is the date of loss is the date of loss is the date of loss. If that cracking started 3 years ago, and here we are 3 years, that's more than 2 years. But that seems kind of unfair in a lot of cases. This case is actually a really good example. The insured didn't even know about it
Right.
until just now. So how can you not give them a chance to even contest anything in court? So what you'll see is that courts, I would say, created something called the discovery rule, which means the 2 years, your 2-year period that you have to file, it doesn't start until you knew about the loss.
Okay.
And then the time starts ticking.
And plus, this was based on the chimney sweep's educated guess that it was 3 years.
Right.
Right.
Right. Although his educated guess, I would say, is better than anyone else's educated guess, unless you're going to
Uh-oh.
get another chimney expert to go against him.
I am. Yes. My
Oh,
chimney expert thinks it only happened a year ago, but
do we have a battle of the experts
we
forming?
could.
Two,
Absolutely.
two chimney sweeps going at it in court. I
So,
can only imagine.
so do either of you have a chimney? Do you think you would have noticed a crack in your chimney?
No, I do have a chimney. I never use it because I just don't like, it's like you said, Alicia, it's not a nice gas fire. It's the old school type of thing. So I don't want the pollution and soot in my house. And if there was ever a crack in there, I would have no idea. And I wouldn't be expected anyone to know until they hire the chimney sweep to tell them. And that I
Right.
think is totally reasonable if they want to say that's when their 2 years starts. Do you have a fireplace that you use,
No, not in my place, not at all. No.
Mike?
Yeah, we have the little gas logs and there's no brick in it, just some kind of a firebox made out of metal. So no cracking, no
Okay,
bricks.
yeah,
Yep.
it makes me wonder how many people would actually notice a crack in a fireplace,
Right.
depending on how often they use it.
Right in the middle of the chimney, right? I mean,
Right.
how often are you looking up there?
So Alicia, that brings up a good question too. Then is there even, do we even have hard proof that it was some kind of a long-term friendly fire, as you called it, Tim, versus mine, which is the hostile chimney fire, which might be covered? How do
This
we
is a
know it was that
point.
friendly fire? Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a point I come back to often, which is the burden of proof point, and I always make the distinction between civil law and criminal law. Criminal law is you have to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt.
Uh-huh.
I'm watching The Jinx on HBO right now, and that phrase is in my head for sure. But for civil law, like insurance law, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a preponderance of the evidence, which means just which seems more likely. And right now, what we have is one expert opinion saying 3+ years. I think that's very strong evidence, assuming this expert is credible. Although if Mike then brings in his own
Right.
expert,
Don't discount my
now we're
expert.
kind of doing this again, and maybe
Right.
we're a little bit closer to 50-50. So if we just have this chimney sweep's opinion to get back to your original question there, I wouldn't. What he said to me is good enough. The hard proof isn't really necessary.
Very good.
Alright, so we're talking about, cracking and stuff like that. Is there coverage for like soot buildup in or around the fireplace?
So this gets to the interaction between the pollutants exclusion and the smoke peril. Anyone who is interested in this, I encourage you to look back to our wildfire episode where we talked about this in detail.
Ah,
To recap that, only sudden and accidental smoke or soot is covered. It's this theme we keep hitting, the normal buildup over time, whether that be fireplace or a candle or whatever you're burning, that's not usually covered under the standard homeowner's policy. For something like that to be covered, it's got to be quick and sudden and accidental. Like maybe if your furnace just suddenly puffs back and blows soot everywhere,
Yeah.
that could be covered.
Okay. All right, so Tim, what can we take away from this scenario?
yeah, what?
Besides the fact that there's friendly fire and hostile fire.
And hostile fires.
Only 20 deaths per
Only
year.
20
And
deaths.
that was, I said that started out negative. That's actually a positive. Even though 20 deaths are 20 too many, still I was up in the 7,000 range. Alicia's
Yeah.
hundreds of people dead. It's only 20, so that doesn't sound too
I
horrific.
agree. We can
anymore.
end on that as a positive
Right.
note. So to recap, cracking to chimney bricks caused by normal heat and old age. Policyholder wants coverage as a loss caused by fire, but the majority of courts would say this is a friendly fire, not a hostile fire, so the fire peril is unlikely to apply. And instead, the proximate cause is probably going to be wear and tear, cracking, something in that group of exclusions. It would be different if it was a chimney fire, a one-time accidental, out of control, hostile ignition, but that's not what we have here. What we have is the type of normal long-term issue that falls under, again, wear and tear. So Mike, do we
Yes.
have related educational materials on the PLRB website?
Well, of course we do, Tim. You know that by now. So check it out. We got plenty of things there at www.plrb.org. We have even some articles from Claims Magazine that covers this scenario: faulty maintenance, covered fire loss, which is which, thermal cracking inside a chimney, and even a windstorm that caused a downdraft into a chimney that disperses soot. You can find all that cool stuff at plrb.org. Alicia, would you be kind enough to put those in the show notes for our fine audience?
Absolutely. You can find those links in our show notes. You can also find a recap of the key points from this episode. You can find links to our social media. You can find information on how to submit your own adjuster story. So don't forget to subscribe and rate us, and visit www.plrb.org. And we'll see you all next time.
Yay. Bye, everybody.
The views and opinions expressed in this resource are those of the individual speaker and not necessarily those of the Property and Liability Resource Bureau, its membership, or any organization with which the presenter is employed or affiliated. The information, ideas, and opinions are presented as information only and not as legal advice or offers of representation. Individual policy language and state laws vary, and listeners should rely on guidance from their companies and counsel as appropriate.